Hello and welcome to You with Winning in Mind. I'm your host, Troy Bassham, along with Heather Sumlin, who we're interviewing today because she is actually the owner and founder of Sumlin Solutions. And so what we're going to do is tackle just exactly what she does to be so successful. Yeah,
Oh.
Heather, what do you do to be so successful?
Wow, that's a heavy question. What do I do to be so successful? Number one, I think I was mentored by really great people. You.
She had an older
being
brother.
One of them. And then, of course, our father, Lanny, was a mentor throughout the last 19 years working for mental management systems. And so that's been valuable because part of what I do, obviously, is teaching mental management. And then working alongside you and doing this podcast has been a lot of fun. And I think that helps. And then just networking and doing a really good job with my clients and caring about them. And they keep coming back. So
Most people don't know. Most people probably don't know exactly what you do and how you utilize mental management in your field. They probably know that we work with primarily separate clientele. Mm-hmm. I'm more into the sports arena that's kind of black and white, cut and dry. Like you made the point, you didn't make the point. Mm. You like to tackle kind of more judgmental or subjective grading type sports, where it's figure skating, pageantry, those type of sports. But you also have a good following in like dog sports, like dog agility and that kind of thing. And so what got you into that direction? Because I think most people, it's like, well, Troy, he just followed Dad's footsteps. Heather obviously did not follow Dad's footsteps. So how did you really get into the direction of coaching, mentoring, and helping people be better by building their mental game?
So originally, I started working for Dad's company, Mental Management Systems, in 2003. And it was after I had read With Winning in Mind really for the first time. He read it when I was in 8th grade or something, and I didn't really... I'm sure you read it back when he wrote it.
You were required to do a book report when you were in school. Or I was.
I don't know that I had that same request. If I did, I don't think I retained what I read. I probably did have to do that. I've made both of my kids do that. They've had to read With Winning in Mind and write a book report on it. I've paid them for said book report, and then also Freedom Flight, both kids. But when I look back, I didn't really see myself as a coach. That wasn't something I thought that I would do. I just really wanted to help Dad sell more books. I just thought the book was great. It changed my life. It enhanced my life. And I wanted to share it with as many people as possible. So initially I came on board just to do customer relations, sales, that kind of thing. And one of the first phone calls that I took early on the summer of working with Dad was a lady who competed in dog obedience. I had no idea what that was. I'm like, I have a dog, but I don't even know that they're obedient. So I don't even understand exactly what you're doing. So she explained it to me. We talked about it. And she's like, the dog sports world loves With Winning in Mind. They love Lanny. And I had no idea. And so that led to reaching out to magazines who were focused in that area, talking to Dad about, hey, this might be a market. I'm always big on let's find who needs us and let's run that direction. So that's how the dog sports started. And Dad worked in that field for a period of time until one day, I guess it was a few years after I started coaching and working in pageantry, which also just naturally kind of happened. I was at an event with Dad. He was teaching a group of dog handlers. And one of the ladies comes up to me and says, I want you to coach me. And I'm like, why? And she goes, number one, you're a woman, so you might understand me a little bit better. Number two, you're a lot more affordable.
And younger.
And closer to her age, for sure. And then she said also, she's like, I can teach you everything you need to know about dog agility, but you need to teach me how I need to think. She goes, it's gonna be great. I'm like, awesome. And so we did. I worked with her for several years. And that was kind of the start of dog sports. Pageantry was a little bit different because I understood that world a little more because I participated when I was younger. So I started volunteering for an organization, and then we applied mental management to their training. I worked on interview coaching with them and just that kind of preparation. And I just loved it. And it just naturally progressed into a coaching opportunity.
You also competed some when you were younger in pageantry, and then you got into running organization for a little while. So you kind of had the background behind the scenes in that area of competition. You've kind of seen everything. So it's probably was a natural fit for you to go into saying, okay, I know what it's like to be in front of a group of judges. I know what it's like to judge. I know what it's like to run a pageant where I'm organizing who's going to judge and who's going to do what and where's the venue going to be and that kind of stuff. So that probably helps you with them. It was probably more of a natural fit. But you didn't get into the pageantry before you got into working with athletes?
Pageant was first.
Okay.
It was 2005. I'd been working for Dad for about 2 years, and Rich, my husband, he says, you need a hobby. I'm like, why do we need a hobby? And he says, because I have a hobby, you don't have a hobby. You need something that you can do.
Everyone needs an outlet. Hobby's a good outlet.
And he's like, you need to find something that you can do that gets you, away from the kids, away from me, something that you can invest some time and energy and effort into that's not work or family. I'm like, okay, great. And I really...
Now your hobbies work.
Yeah, for real. So I remember I was thinking, okay, what can I do with my time? And I missed the Miss America organization because that's the organization that I really had built me, if you will, because I learned all of my speaking skills, my confidence, things like that, really through participating in the Miss America organization. And I thought, well, that was the organization that Mom and I ran a local competition through. And since we moved to Texas, that was in Colorado. So when we moved to Texas, I was a little intimidated to get involved in Texas because it had been a long time since I participated in the Miss Texas organization. And Texas is intimidating when it comes to pageantry in general. It's just a much bigger, more successful in some ways state.
Got some good history.
And it's a little bit harder to crack into. And I wasn't really sure if I wanted to tackle that. I didn't want to be a local director. That was a lot of work, but I wanted to help a local director. So I posted on a message board and just said, hey, I just want to volunteer somewhere, here's my email, whatever.
I need a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. My husband says I need a hobby. Message me. And that's when Jan Mitchell, who was the director of the Miss Plano Frisco organization, who is currently the director of the Miss Texas organization now. So back then she ran a local and she was the only one that reached out to me at the time. And she says, we'll find a place for you. Let's meet. And I just always loved her excitement and just her willingness to just bring anybody on board who wants to help and find a spot for them. And I just thought that was so cool. And then when we met, I was like, do you have experience?
She ran the Plano Frisco.
She ran the Miss Plano Frisco organization back in the early 2000s and then became the director of Miss Texas several years back. So
you were a big part in the development of the first African-American Miss Texas.
Well, I would say Shyla was 100% the catalyst for making that happen.
But wasn't she from the Plano Frisco when you were there? Or no?
Absolutely. But when you work with someone like Shyla Phillips had all of the things necessary to be a great Miss Texas. Already. Like she was talented, she's beautiful, she was articulate, she had a really great story. I mean, just so many wonderful qualities that she had. And we definitely helped her, but at the end of the day, I don't take credit for someone else's win. That is their win. And
yeah, but you're being a little bit humble because even though they have all those things, never been to a pageant before, wins the local, goes to state, who's guiding her, who's helping her, who's mentoring her. And some of that you had a hand into. Well, and she was able to elevate that to another degree. Yeah, Dad really hit a home run with her with the whole Freedom Flight. Yeah. And that really connected with her.
Those of you who don't know what Freedom Flight is, it's a story that Dad tells that illustrates a really powerful point that you can control your mind no matter your environment. And now it's a book and an audio program. The audio is available on our Patreon. So if you're not a Patreon member, if you join for no other reason than to listen to Freedom Flight, I think it's a worthwhile investment. It's $20 to be a member of our silver level, and you have access to Freedom Flight there. And it is by far my favorite product that dad has done, that he has written. It's just packs a powerful punch, and it really spoke to her, but it's really spoken to a lot of my clients over the years, especially the younger ones, because it's a story and it's very emotional, and it makes you kind of want to change. Like, you want to learn from it, and you want to implement the lesson. So it's an amazing read. It's a wonderful listen. So check it out.
And I think that was a big part of her journey of success in a very fast career she had. I mean, she went from local, state, boom, Miss America. And so having someone like you who's kind of been through the ropes and knows how things, so where you can kind of guide in that one. Having dad as a mentor that really connected her through Freedom Flight. And then having someone like, Mitchell, that just like, if you don't know who she is, she's like a ball of energy. And just as, if you are like 1 minute with her and you're in a good mood.
Yeah.
And so having those people around, and where I'm going to with this is it really takes a team to get to be successful. Even though I agree with you 100% that the athlete, when they succeed, they should get the full credit.
Win.
They should
Absolutely.
get the full credit. They're the ones that have to do it. It's, if you're a shooter, you've got to execute the shot. If you're a basketball player, you got to make the pass. You got to make the shot. So there's definitely the athletes doing a lot of work, but there's a lot of behind the scenes where people help them. And I don't think a lot of people really see that. And so for you going into, okay, I want a hobby, I want to kind of get involved in this. And then right out the gate, you have this good experience with this individual. And I'm sure you took some of that and helped other competitors in the future be successful, because now, in case you don't know it, Heather's like the queen of pageantry. Like, you help more people succeed in that than I probably think any other person.
I don't know. I'm not a pageant coach. There's a lot of people out there that work with more people. And so therefore I think their numbers might be different because of that. But the people that I do work with tend to at least perform up to their potential. I can't control results. Like, that's the one thing about pageant that's so interesting is you really can't control results. You can influence them, you can do your best. But at the end of the day, the judges see what they see, and they grade and score accordingly, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so I do my best. I don't know if I'm going to throw myself out there to say I'm the world's,
I will. I will throw it out. Here's why I say that. If it's not the best, definitely one of the best. And this is why I say that, because how many people have I seen over the years, countless, by the way, they come in, they're not quite reaching their mark. You work with them, and you elevate it. And maybe they're not as successful. They want to be that first go round, but it's the second, the third. And you've had family members where you've had like three, the oldest, the middle, and the youngest all go through your program, all were successful in pageantry. You've helped a lot of people in their dog sports become successful. And also the figure skating. How many people have you worked with in that area? Just a lot of people come to you. And when you're working with a sport where it's like, okay, I nailed it. And then I'm like, what? I didn't get the score I thought I was going to get. There's really, and we teach the reinforcement phase of a task. And one of the tasks that you have to really help people with is, what if things don't go the way you thought they were going to go because the judge saw something different than you saw in your performance? That's a challenge, and you probably are one of the best that really handle that and get them to see the benefit for their future potential success and not just get focused on the current why. You're really good about
we talked about
forward thinking.
That I think we talked about that the other day in a previous podcast, is like, how do you handle that reinforcement when you don't get what you really wanted? And it's really, sometimes it's changing what you care about, not caring so much about needing the results. It's one thing to want to win. It's another thing to need to win. If you need to win, that means there's some sort of hole that you need to be filled by this success. And I don't necessarily find that valuable. I think you win when you don't need it anymore and you just really want it because it would, you would add to that program or to that title, and not so much that you need it in order to add to you. You should be complete already. And so I think that's kind of the difference. And usually the girls, when they're successful, I had someone not too awful long ago basically tell me that heading into her competition. She's like, I realize that this year I'm not desperate. I don't need it. It's something that would enhance my life? Absolutely. But I'm 100% happy even without it. And then she won. And I think in pageantry, that's the case a lot of times, is that you win it when it's no longer something that you're desperate for.
Yeah. So what is your approach when you work with an individual? Because it's a little bit unique. You got people that come to you, and how do you break that down? How do you guide them through? Is there kind of like a Heather, this is kind of how I approach it in the beginning, and this is the direction I go?
So it's interesting because yes and no. I don't think anybody is exactly identical or the same. I think when it comes to the mental game, there are certain steps that we absolutely have to take. We need them to understand how to be balanced, how to control their mind during competition, how to build self-image. All of that definitely is certain steps that need to be taken. I really enjoy when people utilize the training that I offer, because it's beneficial to have it not just one-on-one, but then also the webinars that I do. So I have a mental mastery for pageantry webinar, for example. And the most recent one that I did, and actually the last several years since the pandemic, been really doing the webinar training. And what I found is the majority of the girls who have gone and won their states, maybe even, I don't know if it's all, but it's definitely the majority of them have gone through that program. So that's something that is instrumental in their training. And I think being able to watch it live if you can, participate if you can, but then go back and watch the recordings and write notes and listen while you're on the treadmill or when you're driving to an appearance, that constant reinforcement is beneficial. Several of the girls that have won have also been Patreon members and have been able to access our content. So they're constantly building themselves, even when they're not talking to me. I cannot be the end all be all of everything for someone. You can't, I guess you could pay me to talk to me every day, but I don't think anybody is going to do that. And so I would rather them have the resources and that added information to be able to fill in those gaps. But when it comes to like interview, because I do interview coaching as well as the mental game, there's not a one size fits all solution, in my opinion. It's trying to figure out what does that person need in that moment, and I'm going to tackle that.
How do you figure that out?
Well, I challenge them and I do a mock. So I challenge them.
So you throw them in a mock interview and then you decide?
A lot of times I do. And it kind of depends on how much experience they have. If they've never competed before, then I might start at a different starting point. But if they've competed for a while, there's two possibilities. Number one, it could be a video recap where if they have a video of a previous interview, then we're going to watch that together and I can analyze, because that's what they really did in the moment, right? So that's a much better assessment of what they're going to do than just like zoom in with me. But if I don't have that opportunity, then I'm going to do a mock interview with them, ask them some challenging questions, see what kind of answers they have. And what kind of feeling I get. And are they able to tell stories and articulate what they want to do? Do they have goals? Do they know what they want to do with the title? Have they thought through things? And kind of find out where they are and then set up a game plan from that, depending on what they need.
Got it. So you kind of throw them to the fire if you feel like they're prepared. If not, you take a little bit more gradual approach and then figure, okay, this is kind of what I think we need to work on, lay some groundwork, and then build them up from there.
My goal is every time that I work with someone that they grow, not only in their skill, but in their self-image. So my goal isn't to just point out everything that they're doing wrong, because I don't think that that's valuable. So instead, it's really to make sure that they recognize what they're doing right and continue to do those things right, and then grow from the things that we can improve on. So most often what I hear back from clients, and I don't know that I've been successful every single time, but what I hear most of the time is, I feel so great after a call with you. I'm just like, I can tackle the world. I'm like, great, because I want you to feel like you can tackle the world, because I believe you can. I believe that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to, and I want to help you get there. I got 2 testimonials the other day. One was from a state title holder, Melody Pierce, who's Miss Arizona, and she sent me a testimonial, and she basically said that up and until working with me, she had placed top 10, was the highest she had done. And then we worked on solidifying, her brand and working on her confidence and things like that. And then she was first runner up after working with me, and then she won the next year. So it's like that consistency. And then the current Miss USA sent me a testimonial as well, because I worked with her before she won Miss North Carolina. She was technically first runner up to Miss USA, and then of course Miss USA won Miss Universe. So now she's Miss USA. But it was really exciting to see when people will send me an actual testimonial, then I know what they gained and what they valued from the training, and that makes me feel good.
Sweet. So when we look at your favorites, because you work a lot of sports, is pageantry your favorite?
Not necessarily. Whoever is in front of me in the moment is my favorite human, and whatever activity they're doing is my favorite activity.
So you don't have a favorite particular sport you like to dive into?
Not necessarily. I just did a webinar series for dog sports, dog handlers, with Barbara Courier, who is an agility coach, and then she's just been very successful in dog sports. And that group was so fun. And even though I couldn't see any of their faces because it's all on webinar, the interaction was amazing. The questions were awesome. And then the feedback and just getting the emails of their successes when they go to a trial. And that just fills my soul. I love that. So it really doesn't matter to me, the industry. I mean, I love dog sport handler or dog handlers. I love pageant participants. I mean, gymnasts. I'm just happy to work with whomever needs help.
Okay, so let's get some nuts and bolts here. So let's tackle a couple of things that you think is, if you were to give someone over your years of experience teaching, to the general public over there, what do you think is the most important thing that they need to know in order to elevate their current success?
I think they need to understand how performance is generated, which is something that we talk about all the time with mental management, that you really need to focus on the 3 mental processes that performance is a function of. You have your conscious mind, your thoughts, your subconscious, which is your skills, and your self-image, which is your habits and your attitudes, kind of your belief in your ability. But all of those things need to be balanced. And I think when someone realizes why or how they're out of balance, then they can actually put the effort in to grow the area that needs the growth. And in most cases, I'm primarily working with women and primarily in female-dominated areas. And the biggest struggle that I see is the lack of confidence. And that's really a self-image issue. And so being able to build and grow the self-image. So controlling thought, being around positive people, internalizing your environment from a place that actually helps you grow. Those things I'm repeatedly doing and helping people with. Changing your perspective on things is super valuable in regards to growing self-image. So that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing, your support team matters. And a lot of times the way you internalize your support team and the way in which they communicate with you can be beneficial or detrimental. It just depends on how they're communicating with you and how you're interpreting them. And so I think it's very, very important. I'm doing a webinar with Dad. We're doing a Parenting Champions webinar coming up soon. And we're going to focus on how to build the self-image of your athlete or performer. And I think it's so incredibly valuable that parents especially and coaches and directors understand how to build the self-image of those that they're mentoring.
So do you encourage parents with your high school, collegiate level or age? Do you encourage them to be a part of the sessions that you do with them? Or is it kind of, nope, I'll do them separate. Let me have the athlete. What kind of approach do you take on that?
I like for them to be present. I think that it's not always possible with how busy everyone is, but I like for them to be present. At minimum, I would love for them to read Parenting Champions. I would love for them to have access to our material, maybe be a Patreon member. Occasionally, parents will actually schedule time with me for themselves, which I think is valuable too, because I could work with the parent as well as the child, and sometimes that's beneficial. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not, sharing secrets and, that kind of thing. I'm not someone that you're going to basically tell your life story to. But I am someone who's just going to try to help you become successful in whatever's coming next. So if you need something like therapy, counseling from that perspective, I may not be your person. But if you need to just change the way that you're thinking in order to reach success, I probably.
Yeah, how you communicate with the athlete is important. But if you're talking about a traumatic event in the past and right. How do I deal with that now in this situation?
I want an expert to handle some of those things because I don't want to pretend to be qualified for that. That's not my expertise.
Yeah, how they're thinking.
There's a need for that.
How they're thinking in competition. How when they come out of that competition, communicating with them from a self-image perspective is really what you're honing into to help that parent mentor the athlete in a productive way to where it's almost like you're tag teaming the athlete in a productive manner rather than, okay, they're kind of doing something different than what I'm trying to accomplish, and then now we're delaying the success of the individual. I like that approach of getting the parents on board, especially at that high school collegiate age. And I say high school collegiate age because you're dealing primarily with 14-year-olds that are probably right in the adolescence phase to people who are just now, quote, official young adults. Like, I don't know what you are between like 17 to 21. I don't know what you're in no man's land, right? You're not really a kid anymore, but no one really counts you as an adult kind of thing. But once you get past that 21, 22, era, then people expect you to have a job working. You're probably graduating from college at that time and the new chapter in life. But I look at it and say you're still in some degree, you're still a kid. You're just a big kid or you're a bigger kid.
You still need, I was reading a book, can't remember what it was, or listening to a podcast. And basically it's like just because a child is 18 and by the government standards, an adult, they still need to be parented. And I think some adults also still, you always need your parent. Like you don't stop needing mom or dad. And so I think it's important to recognize that it's valuable. Like your interaction with your kids is valuable no matter how old they are. And the way in which they interpret you should probably understand.
Yeah, the two big things.
And I violate it all the time, my daughter would tell you. So I'm not perfect.
Two big things that qualify you as a parent or quantify you as a parent is who's paying for it, the parent,
Typically,
and then who's the one that the athlete is communicating to the most, the parent, because they're around, they're in the house, and they've known this person since birth. So they've grown up, they've worked with them, they know what they can do, they know what their limits are, and they're able to help in a way that the average person might not be able to. So they go off to college. Who are they calling? They're probably calling home, talking to mom and dad. And so you still have that role, even though you're 18, 19 years of age and, quote, you're no longer a kid anymore. But at the same time, you're still relying on your parents for things. It's not like an 18-year-old can go out and get a car loan. They're going to need someone to help them with that. It's not like they can just do things like an adult would. There's this period of time between 18 to probably 25 that you build a crossover, and then it's like, okay, now I'm on my own. I'm responsible for my bills. I'm responsible for my own decisions, that kind of stuff. But up until then, mom and dad are helping you with those decisions. They're helping finance all those decisions. They're helping you build towards a goal. So I find it very important to have them involved in that particular age group moving forward. But what's interesting in pageantry is that you cross beyond that age group because in the Miss America to Miss USA, Miss Universe, you're talking about an age group that's beyond 21, 22. I mean, they're going up to the mid-20s and, up to 27, 28, something like that.
Yeah, Miss America just extended the age to 28. I think USA might have extended it to 30. I'm not sure.
So we're talking about a huge difference just in experience level between a 27-year-old and a 22-year-old.
Well, and there's Mrs. competitions too, and there's senior competitions. So there's really not an age range that it has to.
Okay, so what is the biggest, most proudest moment of a success story that you look back on and think, okay, yeah, I'm glad I was a part of that? Any standout?
You put me on the spot. Well, I guess I can talk about Holly Brand just because she's on The Voice right now and she just advanced to the live shows. And I met her when she was 15. And one of her really good friends, I had worked with this woman's daughter, and they're like really close family friends with the Brand family. And she reached out to me. She's like, I'm going to pay for you to work with this kid. I'm like, okay, great. That sounds good. I'm like, yeah, I'll work with this kid. And so I worked with her leading up to Miss Mississippi's Outstanding Teen. And then she didn't win that year. She came back again. I think she took a year off and then came back again, and we worked together. And then she won Miss Mississippi's Outstanding Teen. And then when she went to compete at Miss Mississippi, it took her 2 times there too. We worked together, and she won Miss Mississippi. And probably now I love everyone, so I don't have real favorites because there's a ton of people that I could talk about. She's just on the brain because I just literally watched the playoffs. And so I'm like, that's so cool when you have someone that you know well who is really pursuing their lifelong childhood dream. And we interviewed her. So you've met her too. And she's one of those people that just has always been very consistent, consistently high character, consistently driven, one of the kindest souls, and also one of the most coachable people, just willing to just soak in everything. And we worked on, obviously, preparation for competition, but we worked on things that were just outside of that, in interviewing for opportunities that she had, and she wanted to work on building confidence. Occasionally, sometimes she would call me and it wouldn't even be anything related to competition. It was a life challenge that she just wanted my opinion on. And it's nice when you're a mentor like that for someone who it's always fun to talk to them. It's always exciting to see what they're doing. And then to see her pursuing that dream that I know she had from the very, very, very beginning to be a professional entertainer, that's really cool. And that's just one of many that I could talk about. She's just on the brain because she's on TV.
So the one thing we've learned is that you think it's important that people start understanding performance, start from there, build from there, really helping athletes, understanding self-image, building self-image in a productive way, correct way, and that you have a lot of favorites.
I have a lot of favorites.
Everyone's your favorite.
Literally.
And there's one thing that you would part in closing to this subject matter we're talking about. What are parting words that you would say, okay, this is something to really think about? What would you suggest?
I've probably said this before, but one of the things that in pageantry that I think is so incredibly important is that it's okay for God to bless someone other than you. Mm-hmm. And when you're striving for something like this, only one person will be recognized as the winner, but that doesn't make you less of a winner. And because subjective graded sports are so different from traditional sports in the sense that more than one person's deserving of the win, but only one will be recognized, you have to be able to evaluate your performance not from score or placement. You have to be able to evaluate it from your personal execution. Did you do what you set out to do? And it doesn't matter so much whether the judges agreed that you were the best choice. It matters that you learned something. Pageantry specifically is a professional development opportunity, and you develop skills necessary to succeed in life. And so whether or not you win your local, state, national, or international title is not nearly as important as who you become in the process and what you do next. And I think Holly has shown that.
So speaking of what to do next, you are also the founder of Sumlin Solutions. Yes. So if people want to work with you, if they want to know more about you, where can they find that information? Where's the best place to go? And how would you want them to reach out to you?
So heathersumlin.com, Sumlin is my last name. So heathersumlin.com is the website, and you can sign up for the Sumlin Summary, which every now and again I'll send out an email. You can message me straight through there. You can schedule training right there. The webinars that I have available will be on there as well. If you are a pageant participant, you just want more information, go ahead and sign up. Email me too. Even if I don't care if you're a pageant participant or gymnast, a skater or whatever, message me and let's see if we can work together. My email is heather@heathersumlin.com.
Sweet. So thank you so much. And then we will.
Oh, and Instagram, I'm at Heather Sumlin.
Oh, Heather's really good on the social media thing. Way better than I am on the social media.
Better than you maybe, but like in comparison, social media I'm working on.
Yeah, you compare your social media to mine, you're like the cream of the
social media is a needs work category for Heather.
Needs work category. Yeah. Speaking of that, if you need work, if you want to find out more about how we can help you, check out our information. You can go further into mentalmanagement.com and see what we're all about from a group standpoint. Also, check out our podcast. If you would, please like and subscribe and share this. Thank you.
Join our Patreon channel because I think we're going to talk more.
We will.